Hello, welcome along. Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. And as we can see, we've got the grey mat out, which means only one thing. It's a beginner's tips video. And in this video, I'm going to cover once again, part 2, ejector pin marks. And the reason I'm doing this is because I now have a kit with some seriously bad ones. And there's various reasons why we get rid of ejector pin marks and how we get rid of them and what we do and how we fill them, this, that and the other, which I'm going to cover all in this video. But there's also different ways to treat different depths and sizes of ejector pin marks, and also why we want to get rid of them. And in this case, there is a really special reason, because this is a really exceptional case. So I have here 2 sprues from the Admiral Kuznetsov. This is the 1/350th trumpeter kit, and I reviewed this kit recently, as some of you will know, and we found some mega ejector pin marks in this model. Now, some are large because they're large in diameter. Some are, there's lots and lots of them, which we need to get rid of. And some are extremely deep. Now, I'm going to take this sprue here, for instance. You can see that when we look at this, first of all, let's have a look at this. What are ejector pin marks? Well, basically, this here is a sprue. And it's a sprue of plastic parts, which is now rigid. This was once liquid, okay? So this was very much once like thick gravy. And what you have is 2 mold tools. Well, 1 mold tool, it's called 1 mold tool, but you have 2 halves. Sometimes you have 3 or 4, 5 sections to a mold tool. But in this one, there's generally, I think it's just a 2-half simple mold tool. And it comes together, the tool comes together, the plastic is injected, so you've got the sprue is like this. Generally machines are horizontal, so they do actually activate like this, left to right, rather than vertical. Some machines are vertical. And then what happens is that the halves of the tool come together, plastic is injected, and it's injected through this center area here, and it runs out, and it runs out there, and it fills all the little chambers and everything. And then once that's done, the plastic stops injecting, it has a curing time, and then the tool opens, and then obviously this will stick to the tool because it's an exact male copy, if you like, of a load of female shapes, or vice versa. So you have to have what's called ejector pin marks, and these are basically pins. Sorry, we don't have to have ejector pin marks, we have to have ejector pins that actually push the sprue out, and then an operator either grabs the sprue and puts it in a box, or it will just fall, and then they all fall on top of each other, or a robot will come and take it and put it over in a rack or whatever. So basically, as you can see on here, this is a really good candidate for it, because we've got sections like this which have a very deep recess in the plane of the mold tool opening. So obviously, if I molded a flat thing like this, okay, and then the tool opens, it would probably just fall out because there's nothing to keep it in. But because of all these L-section shapes, this just doesn't want to come out of the tool. So they have to have pins to push it out. And on the back of these parts, you can see we have lots of little indentations, lots of circular marks. Okay, some are deeper than others, some are larger than others. Okay, some don't matter at all, others we have to deal with. Now, for example, unfortunately, if we look on here, this is the bulged bow of the ship, made in 2 halves. So obviously the inside of this doesn't matter at all, we're never going to see it. But we've got slightly raised ejector pin marks, and I can show you that if I take a pencil. Okay, if I take a pencil and I draw on the plastic like that. In fact, let me get a better pencil. Generally, I've got some blue ones here. The blue ones are better. Here we go. There we go. If I draw on the plastic like that, you can see that I've basically drawn over that mark. If I now take this is a coarse sanding stick, and I go over the top, you can see that when I start sand, it's basically removing the pencil lead from the ejector pin mark and leaving the rest, which means that ejector pin mark is raised. And they're the easiest type to get away with because you just sand them and they're gone. Whereas here, on this lower superstructure, we're absolutely covered in ejector pin marks. Some are quite deep, they're all quite large. and basically they are going to be visible if we look up underneath the deck. Now, the way to determine what you want to get rid of and what you don't is to jump to your instructions, and we can see on here that that part there, that's B28, that's going down onto that superstructure, so that when it's assembled we will be able to see underneath there. If we look up under, we'll see those ejector pin marks. Now, you may choose to get rid of them or not. Sometimes they are in very, very obvious positions. Sometimes they are not in obvious positions, but you may just choose to get rid of them anyway. So what I've done, I've basically gone through the instructions, had a look at what I think needs to be got rid of initially, and just made a mark. So you can see that this panel here has got these wings. This is basically another floor section. So these wings are going to come out with guns or searchlights or whatever on them. And we've got ejector pin marks in the bottom, so I'm going to get rid of those. The same here, these are platforms that go around the superstructure with lights or whatever on them, and they are going to go. I can show you them in the instructions here. Come over this page. You can see here they are. This is A5. One of these is A5 and one's A4. This one's A4, this one's A5. And you can see that we've got a radar thing going there and a couple of greeblies going there. But underneath you'll be able to see the ejector pin marks, so you can get rid of them. Now, if you're just going to look at the model from the top, you're never going to look at it properly from the sides, then you may choose to just leave them. It's up to you. So that's one thing, and what I've done there is gone round and marked them. Now, what you can do is leave the parts on the sprue and just fill the ejector pin marks and then deal with them later, sand them. The longer you leave them before you sand them, the better, no matter what medium you use, but I will go through all that in a minute. But one of the biggest issues on this model, which I picked up on in the review, was the inside of these sidewalls. Now, you can see here that these ejector pin marks are extremely deep. Like this one here, you can see, if I get my calipers, we'll just measure the depth of that one there. Okay, so we can see that one there is, hang on, better do it this way because I think I'm catching on that flange. So we can see that's 0.46 millimeters deep. Let's just measure that again. 0.63 millimeters deep that time. And this plastic is 1 millimeter. That means there's only 0.4 on the other side. When we look at the other side, if I can catch this in the light, it may be better to show you this one actually. When we look at the other side, if I can catch it in the light, you can see there are lots of bulges. And those bulges are where the ejector pin marks have been, and because the plastic's so thin, as the ejector pin marks have pushed it out, they've actually put bulges on the sides. Now the problem is here, because the plastic is so thin, if we just sand here, we're going to make it even thinner, so we need to sort of get something in there from behind just to back it up. We're not going to go through, but we don't want to end up with something so thin that if we paint it with a hot chemical paint, it's going to make a big sink mark in it. Now obviously areas like this is a superstructure here, and these are two halves going together, and this is all inside, you're never going to see it, so we don't worry about them unless we have the issue like we have here. But we're not going to worry about those and fill those. But areas like this here, these areas here, I think stand out. If you ever in doubt, fill them. Okay, it's better to, because the trouble is if you just decide to leave it until you get to that point in the model, you've then got to fill them, wait for them to dry, or rush and sand them down too quickly, and then they just reappear. As I say, these ejector pin marks are not in a seriously visible position. You will find models like the Hobby Boss Scammell tank transporter. There is a plate that goes across the back of the chassis that has about 6 ejector pin marks in it, and you have to get rid of them because they're visible. There's also places like on there is a tank, I can't think who the manufacturer, I think it's Tiger Model, have made a Israeli, it's one of those chieftain based personnel carriers, and it's got like a lovely sort of turret on the top. It's the Israeli made turret fitted to a chieftain tank, and they've actually got the ejector pin marks all around the outside, even though the inside is sealed up, no interior, never seen. The inside is perfect, but the ejector pin marks on the outside. So that this is why we want to be getting rid of them. So this video is going to cover how to get rid of these marks in this instance. So as I say, you can leave the parts on the sprue or you can take them off. For this video, for examples like this, I'm going to take them off. It's going to be a lot easier for me to film it, not having to manhandle a great big sprue. So I'm just going to cut these parts off. Okay, you can see I'm leaving a big sprue gate on. I'm not trying to go right up to the surface. So there's one. Okay, now these here, let's find the really, I think this one's got the deepest ones. So we'll take this one off as well. Okay, leaving plenty of sprue on there. There we go. Job done. Okay, so we'll just do those two for now. If I know, I'll get, that's got some quite deep ones in, so we'll get this one off as well. Okay, and the other thing is you can do if you want to, if you're going to get confused about part numbers and stuff, just write the part number on there, write it on the top. You can use pencil. So don't use magic marker if you can help it, and that'll just you know, it's confidence inspiring, if you like. So we've got those three parts there. Now you can see here we have, God, those are really deep there. Another spam call. You can see there that one. Which one was I was measuring? That one there, wasn't it? Yeah, I think we'll find that one there is like 0.75 millimeters deep. 0.63. Ridiculous. So what we're going to do, I have got here some VMS super glue. Now these super glues I think are the best super glues on the planet. That's just my opinion. They are absolutely brilliant. So I've got the black here and the black thin, and the reason I'm using these two is because we can see what we're doing. Alright, so that way you can see what we're doing. And then I'm going to get a new one because my old Pringles lid is here and it's absolutely minging. So I'll get a new Pringles lid, which means I'm going to have to get a new packet of Pringles so I can replace it. Now there's a shame. Right, so we get a new lid there. Put our god hands out of the way. Most of the stuff you see me using in these videos you can get from a company called Brooks Models, and I have their card over here. Okay, Brooks Models, brooksmodels.com. Go on there, you'll see all these glues, these cutters, all the sanders I use and everything, except for these. These are little icky sticky sanders, and these were sent by Annie, who's one of my great followers. And these come from Australia, and they're currently unavailable in the UK as far as I'm aware, although I think there may be somebody bringing them in. We shall see. But yeah, brooksmodels.com. If you go on there, there'll be a link in the video down below, and you can see how you can save yourself some money as well. So I'm going to take a drop of the black thin, give it a shake, otherwise you'll find you'll get like a translucent sort of black goo coming out. I'm just going to put a drop of that there. Alright, and we've got some of the ordinary black so we can see the difference. Oops, let's get rid of that lump. Go away. That's just a dried lump of glue that's come out of the lid. Okay, so we squeeze that out and that's a lot thicker, that one. Alright, now this is a little thing, this is called a glue looper, and now I'm going to clean this off and I'll show you how. This is basically like a little tiny piece of stainless steel that's mounted in a knife handle. They're called glue loopers, you can find them anywhere. I must get Rob to get some in actually, I don't think he does any. So I'm going to use a cigarette lighter and just light that, okay, and then take a paper towel and just wipe it off and it's clean again, and we've got another bit of lump in there. Not that it really matters on this job, but our cigarette lighter away. So we have ejector pin marks to fill. Now what we're going to do, we're going to come along and get some of the thick. Now be very careful with the thick, don't go like this to your model, because what will happen is you'll get mess everywhere, because it kind of strings as you pull the tool away, it kind of strings. And what you want to do is fill it, okay, fill it to so that it's like a mound, so there's too much in there, because what happens as it dries it shrinks. Okay, so you can see on there we have a raised area. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get my pencil, I'm going to put black, black, and then this is going to be black thin, this is going to be black thin, and this is going to be MS. Alright, don't worry about MS, you'll see it in a minute. So the black thin is here, so I'm going to put a drop of that in there, and I'm going to put a drop of that in there. Okay, there we go. Right. So that's gone like that. So we can leave those to dry, or we can get on and do something else. Now, okay, what I'm going to do is just go on and use some of this super glue in here. So what we'll do is we use the ordinary, the black, not the black thin. And I'm being very careful here because, as you can see, we've got a raised edge. And this is one of the biggest issues with ejector pin marks in older kits. Now, if you're only buying newer kits, you're in a world of luxury. Because in the old days, this kit was originally sold in 2005, so 20 years ago, and the manufacturers didn't give a single thought or care to the location of the ejector pin marks. And I'll show you a part in a minute to show you exactly what I mean. Now, these days they are very, very thoughtful, and they will use every method they can to get around leaving you with great big ejector pin marks to fill. So if you only buy newer kits, then you are very lucky indeed. As you can see on here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ejector pin marks on this tiny part. There are some kits like the Italeri Lancia not the Stratos, the Delta Integrale. In the bonnet, the hood, I think there's something like 36 ejector pin marks to fill. Okay, so that's those filled, and they are just purely done for cosmetic reasons to hide them so we have a nice flat surface. Now on this one, as I said, I'm worried about the thinness of the plastic. If I decide to sand these bulges out, will I go through? So what you can do is just put some, just put a drop of, we use the thin. We're just going to put a drop in each one of these. All right, and just let it. It's best to keep the glue as close as you can, because otherwise you get, as you can see here, we've got little drips. And it's almost like static as it comes away. I think it's stringing. You can see the static on the plastic there. I think it's stringing that causes it. But all we're going to do is just look at these deep ones. There we go. See the static there? But obviously, because it's on the inside, it doesn't matter. And what I'm going to do is, as I say, put some super glue in these deep ones, just so that I know that when I see these are really deep down here, I just want to know that when I sand, I'm not going to go through. And all this is going to do is just support and give a bit more body to that little thin web of plastic. Let's use some of the thick on here as well. As you can see, what I'm doing is I don't want it to go everywhere. I'm just filling in the holes, much like filling in a little trench. Alright, and there's another deep one there I can see. And I've got these down here, they're extremely deep. Just puddle it in, and that's that. Just like so. Alright, and I'm going to go on and do the other deep ones, and then I'll come back and we'll see how it all looks. Okay, so about 10 minutes later now, and these are drying. As you can see, they're still forming a bulge on the surface. If you notice, I'm not using accelerators. You can get aerosol and brush on accelerators. I don't like to use them if I'm using the super glue as a filling medium. It can make it go very, very hard. Certain super glues will become like concrete when you put that stuff on them. And the other thing is sometimes it can make it aerate, so you get tiny bubbles. So if you're using it as a filler where you want a nice finish, like here, then it's pretty pointless really to put more bubbles on the surface. Here it wouldn't matter so much, but this is only, as you know, just to back it up. Now there's other ways of doing this. You don't just have to use super glue. You can use a product called Mr. Surfacer. This is Mr. Surfacer 1000. You can also get 500 and 1200. Again, this is available from Brooks Models. And I'm going to use this and I'll show you how this works. Okay, so literally it is like a liquid filler. And if you've watched my other beginners videos, you know I absolutely love this stuff. But as a filler for ejector pin marks, I find super glue is better. So what I'm going to do again here, the same as I did with the super glue, I'm going to put quite a lot in there to actually make it form like a dome, if you like. So put too much in there and then it'll sort of form like a big igloo over the ejector pin mark you can see there. Yeah, okay. So we'll just literally let that dry. And then inside here, I'm going to do another couple of these deep ones. So again, putting loads in there to fill it up. And the only reason I'm doing this is to show you the difference. Okay. Now as you can see, all of these will shrink back, and you can see this one here, in front of my finger, has already started to shrink back and there's hardly anything there. Okay, whereas these here where I've put more in, they're better. Okay, so on this one here, this was a shallow floor. Again, we could do the same. We could fill them with Mr. Surfacer, sand them out, whatever, but we'll be forever and a day doing that. So I'm just going to give my brush a quick clean. You don't need to worry about cleaning your brushes properly with Mr. Surfacer. If you have a brush dedicated, you can see this one is, then when it's hard, you just dip it in the Mr. Surfacer, it softens it again straight away because the Mr. Surfacer dissolves the old Mr. Surfacer on the bristles. So as you can see there, we've got those there. So we've got all those there filled with super glue, and we've got all these here. We've got this one here is the black thin, this one here is the black. The only reason I've marked it on there is just to show you the difference. These, what I've done, just to use it up, I've used a mixture of the two, and then I've actually wiped off my my super glue Pringles lid, which is very unusual for me. So there we go. We're going to put the protective cover on our god hands as well. Move those over there. Okay, I'm going to put this here so that you know the name of that shop where you can get all this stuff. So there are, as you know, there are more than one ways to skin a cat. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, and I've lost what I was going to show you. Where on earth has that gone? There it is. Okay, so we have here these deep ejector pin marks, which are a bit of a pain. So what I'm going to do is use sprue to fill them, not sprue goo. Don't go near ejector pin marks with sprue goo. Reason is sprue goo is hot. It will basically end up melting and making a bulge on the back of there. So what I've done, I found a piece of sprue. I've gone and measured. The diameter of this is 3mm. These are about 2.8mm. So these little legs that are coming off of here, I can take that. Okay. Now, as it's inside and I'm not after a good finish, all I want to do is block it up. What I can do is take some, I'll use the ordinary black. Okay, so I'll put a drop of that on here. Okay, I'll put a drop of that there. And then what I'm going to do, I've got the end of this and I've just literally got a really coarse sanding stick just for speed. I'm going in one direction only. Just sand it. It doesn't need to be all perpendicular and perfect and everything. It just needs to be sanded. Just remove that burr from there. And then I'm going to dip this in the super glue. Make sure we got a good blob on there. And then I can shove that in that hole. Just like that. And just leave it to dry. And then if it was somewhere where I needed this was finishing, where it was on a surface that's going to be exposed, like on these for example, what I do then is when it's dry, come along the nippers, nip the excess off and sand it flat. So that's another good way of doing it. You can see here I've got a piece of bigger sprue. I can do the same on these. That one there is fairly deep, so I can basically glue that in there and then cut it off afterwards. But the thing is, these are fairly shallow. So what I can do is just take my glue applicator and just fill. Okay, now the other thing you could do here, if you have a punch, in fact what I could do is cut some discs. That's what I'll do. So we can just fill that there and let it sink back, job done. Or we can actually make some discs. Now if you've got punches that go to this size, you may use a hole punch for your punching paper to make holes for filing it away. But basically what I'm going to do is just cut some discs. Okay, so we'll get the cutter out and show you how we do that. Alright, so I've got my circle cut here. This one's called a shadow. This was kindly given to me by John Kelly. He was a big fan of the show. And these things are great. Their biggest downfall is if you want to cut a ring, is getting this to go back in the same place again to get a complete, a fully even ring. The other thing is they have no fine adjustment. So to go from this here, which is, what size is this? That is roughly, now this is about 7.6 millimeters. So I want to go down to, I think it's 5. Yeah, 4.95, so 5 millimeters. So I want to go down to 5 millimeters, and you watch, because the camera's on, this will work straight away. So I move it a little bit, tighten it up, and then I do another piece, and you can see what I'm doing is, rather than wasting plastic, I'm using paper. Okay, so we can see now that I've got a piece there which is 5.5, so that's a bit too big, so I need to come a tiny bit smaller again. I'm trying to get a really fine adjustment going here. And now that one is, yeah, that's 4.8, so I'm just going to try and come a little tiny bit bigger. And this is the problem with these things. I think it moved a lot then when I undid it. There's no, I wish they had like a little vernier adjustment on them, a little thumb wheel, so that you could adjust them. I think that's gone much too big again. No, that seems like it might be right, so we can just take that disc. I'll cut a fresh one. From here, paper, it's that one there that we want. Oh, come on. Then we'll put that down in there and we'll see if it's the right size. And yes, it is. It's, if anything, it's a touch. Yeah, it's a touch too big. Now this is the problem. I now need to move this a microscopic amount. And you watch now, this will be like 4 millimeters or something. Yeah, there we go. It's absolutely tidy. And this is the problem with these bloody things. They're all the same. Any manufacturer you choose, they're all the same. Somebody needs to make one with a vernier, fine adjustment on it. I'd rather have it too small than too big. There we go, that'll do us. That's slightly too small. So now, to get the paper off, you can actually use paper. If you soak it in super glue, you can. But what I found in the past, get off, bloody static. Where's my anti-static brush? Urgh. You can actually use paper, but as I say, I've found in the past when I've tried it, I end up with like a fluffy finish on the surface. So we can put that over there. We can grab our circles everywhere now. I got some 10 thou plastic card. Now I'm not sure if this is going to want to cut through this. I'm just going to increase the pressure slightly. These things are only really meant for cutting paper, masking tape and the like. Yeah, so as you can see, I need to increase the pressure some more. Let's just give it a bit more pressure. Don't try and cut the same circle because it won't. And as you can see, it's an absolute total and utter bind, but it is a way of doing it that I wanted to show you. There we go, we got one there. Do you think it's really worth all that fuss? So there's one disc that can go in there. Okay, so we can get that one out, and then I can put some super glue in there. Make sure it goes all the way out to the edge, and then using a knife, just pick that up and just plonk it in. And that way, what we've done there is filled our hole with plastic rather than super glue. And the reason you would do that is purely because with this here, as this dries, this is going to shrink back. And I'm going to come back in a minute. It's going to be hours for me, but it's going to be seconds for you. And I'm going to show you how this is all dried out, just so you can see the difference. So I'll go on and do another one of these if I can. Such a waste of plastic card, it really is. I mean, no doubt somebody's going to tell me in the comments, you could measure this and measure that and position it here and position it there. Yeah, I could, but I haven't. So there we are. But they do make a little, I think it's like a corner unit that you push the circle cutter into. Yeah, this is just not playing ball at all, is it? You push the circle cutter into a corner, and then when you reduce the size, you get the same position again. The trouble is, as you've just seen, how do you know when you've got the right size? And that is my big bugbear with these things. They're okay if you just want a circle, but if you want to make a circle of a specific size, you're going to have some fun. Especially if you want a circle in a circle to make a mask for a tire, say. Okay, so there's those. We've done two like that. And then what we'll do, we'll get the ordinary black. As I've already used, this is the black. Okay, so we'll get that drop there. So we'll go, this is black, that's black, and that one there is going to be black. Okay, so that's going in there. I've got a bubble in the middle, get rid of the bubbles. Because the bubbles will obviously just end up as a hollow. So fill that in like that. There we go. So that's those filled in. And then I'm going to get a drop of the black thin. Put that here so you know I'm not cheating. You can see exactly what I'm doing. That's the black thin. And then what we'll do is we'll do that one there. To be fair, that one was fairly shallowish. That one there is about the same as the ones on the other side. So we'll do that one there and fill it up so that it's bulging. Another drop in there. There we go. I'll put another drop in that other one as well, just to raise it up a touch. Okay, and then that's black thin and that's black thin. And what I'll do a couple of them here. I'll do one here and I'll do one here with the plastic disc, but using the black thin. So I'll see you back in a second. Just want to show you guys, to be fair to this tool, if I go anti-clockwise rather than clockwise, it cuts a lot better. I knew it. As soon as I put the camera on, I just knew it. There we go. We try again. It's the bloody same every time you put the camera on. I found if I go anti-clockwise it cuts better. No, it doesn't, not at all. Maybe if I now go clockwise, if you alternate between clockwise and anti-clockwise. Yeah, that seems to be the thing. Do one that way, next one that way. So what we'll do now with the black thin, we'll put a drop of that in there. Oh, bloody static. Put a drop of that in there. To be fair, that one is very shallow. And we'll put a drop in there. Just run it round to the edges. And then we will grab a knife and stuff that in there. And we'll stuff that in there. There we go, and I've got one left here, so I may as well use it up, hadn't I? I'll do one over here. The reason I'm making sure I've got full coverage is so that I don't get any bubbles. Okay, so that's another black thin, isn't it? There we are. Right. I'm going to leave this to dry. One more thing I will do. On these big ones, oh, this always happens with Mr. Surfacer. The lid stays on the jar. Right. Just going to put some in there. I don't need to label this, do I? Because you know what's grey and what's not. So I'll put a nice big mound of this in there. We'll put some in those front two as well, or stirb, whatever it is. There we go, so that's them all nicely filled in, just like so. Okay, let's put a drop more in that one to make sure they're all even, and we will just leave that to dry for, I don't know, 3-4 hours. And then I can show you what it's like. I've got a bubble there, we'll get rid of that. Make sure they've gone down nicely. There we are. We also have to be very careful because you'll notice on here when we come to sand it, there's a lip on the edge of there, and I want to try and leave that lip in place. But there we go. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to fill that one there so we don't have this one. I'll do a mixture of the thin and the thick. So we don't have that one ejector pin mark on its own. Because that way you see we can sand all those together. There we are. Right, see you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. 24 hours later now, and as you can see, we've got all this glue on here. It's all nice and dry. So we'll look at this piece first because it's the biggest one. So we can see on here we've got black thin, black, black, black thin. Okay, so you can see they've all shrunk back. I don't know if you can make that out, but if you remember, that was like a dome, and now there's hardly anything there. Same with the Mr. Surfacer. That's all shrunk back, and here you can see these plastic discs are still nice and flush. So if I take a fairly coarse-ish sanding stick, this is just an icky sticky stick I think, and we go over here where this one is. If I just sand away here, you can see that the first thing it does, it starts to, in fact I'll do this one here because it's not so close to the edge, I don't have to concentrate so much because it's difficult to concentrate and talk and keep everything in focus in the camera and all that together. So you can see here that I'm able to sand that, and I'm sanding away that plastic disc. And what I'm going to do here is grab a pencil, Mr. Unprepared, grab a pencil and just colour that in like that so you can see that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just very lightly go over the top until the pencil disappears. Now you need to be careful, this edge has got a little lip on it, a tiny little lip. I'm not sure if it needs to be there or not, but it is there. I'm just going to basically sand that. I'm assuming this is the bottom. Yes, it must be because we've got those gussets there. You know, but it's not unheard of for a kit manufacturer to put great big ejector pin marks in the top face and the bottom is absolutely clean, and the bottom doesn't matter so much. As I say, I know for a fact on that Hobby Boss Scammell tank transporter, across the back of the trailer there is a rear cross member, and it has to go on a certain way because it has bits sticking out for the ramps, but literally they are absolutely tiny, and it is plastered in ejector pin marks on the outside face, and the inside face is perfectly clean. The inside face is butted up to another cross member. It's absolutely crazy. So there we go. You see that has now disappeared, and that won't shrink back. These will all continue to shrink, especially the Mr. Surfacer. So as you can see now with this one here, or with any of these here, let's pick on this. Well, let's pick on one of these. In fact, they've not shrunk back so much. I must have put more glue in those. But if I pick on this one here, say, I'll put the pencil on, and you'll see as soon as I need an old pair of jeans, cut the bottoms off before you throw them away, and that'll make you a lovely cleaner for your sanding stick. So I could just sand that on there, being careful not to touch any of the detail around. This is the trouble with doing stuff on camera. And you can see that is it's sunken in. It's not sanding it smooth. It's removing the pencil from the surface, but we've still got Mr. Surfacer in there. So basically we need to go over all of these again with more. Now the other way you can do this, the other thing I wanted to show you was on these here, you can see how these have all shrunk back as well. So you can see on there the Mr. Surfacer, if I sand that, we end up with the indentation still there. Here we've got the black. I'm not sure if we're going to get away with that or not. It does appear that we may get away with that. Nope, we've still got a recess in there. This one here. Nope, still got a recess. This one here, I managed to smudge the glue when I moved it before it dried. That one there is not so bad by the look of it. And then this one here, you can see on there, that one's also. So we need to go over all of those again. So this is the problem with when you come to filling ejector pin marks, whatever you do, it will sink back. Now there is a way around it. Talcum powder and super glue. I'm going to use ordinary super glue so that we can tell which one's which. So I'm just going to put some ordinary super glue down here. Okay, just a drop, and then add some talcum powder to it. And just mix it in. You can add more or less, whatever you want to do. There is no recommended consistency, but what this does, this sort of acts as like a binder for the super glue. You can see it turns into a gooey paste, and then we can take this, we can put that in there. Okay, put some more on so it becomes a mound. There we go. Just get that hair off of there. Just fill those in just like we did before, and then leave it for a while to dry, and then when I come back you'll see that they haven't shrunk back as much as the others. What I'll do in the meantime, I'll put more black glue in these more Mr. Surfacer now and you'll see how that responds as well. We've probably got enough there to do one more actually. There we go. There we are. Now you may want to just remove all these gussets and replace them with photo etch or something, but you know, you can do whatever you want to really. So there we go. So that's, I'll put a drop more in that one if I can. Just build that one up a bit more. There we go. We'll leave that to dry and then we'll come back and see how that looks probably tomorrow. But these here, you can, if you remember, I put that plastic in there. We'll see if I can successfully cut that off. There we go, and you can see we've got a nice deep ejector pin mark. Now the finish doesn't matter on here, but if it did, we could sand that flat, and we've got our sprue glued into there. We could trim it a bit closer if we want to. I think we can get in there a bit closer. There we go. And then use a knife. Got a knife with a nice round blade on it, just to help me trim some out. I think this blade is quite blunt actually, to be honest. Yes, I think this blade is very blunt, to be honest. Blunt blades are dangerous because that's when you cut yourself. But, there we go. So you can see that you can basically carve that around, and then we could come in with a sanding stick. Where's my nice coarse white one? Come in with a sanding stick. Sand that out until it's nice and flat. Obviously on the inside here it doesn't matter, but I'm just showing you what you can achieve. And there you go, you can see you've got glue, super glue holding that sprue in there, and that's pretty much nice and smooth before it's finished off. But there we are. So yeah, all good. These on here again, these are all sunken back in, so these are going to need another application of glue. Again, we've got that little lip around the edge, so we'll be careful of that. You can see on there, that one looks like it might be okay. But these I want to do off camera because I have to be so careful about these little raised edges and everything everywhere. Can see that on that one there we're still going to need some more in there. So the rule of thumb is don't rely on just super glue because it can let you down. That's what I'm trying to show you, especially with these big ones like this and the deep ones like we got here. So just worth bearing in mind really. And then also, as I say, we've got this talcum powder in them, so we'll see how they respond and we'll go from there. The other thing is they'll probably dry quite hard, so they'll be more difficult to sand, but we'll see when we get there. Right, see you in a bit. Okay, so it's the next day again, and I've basically gone around and sanded everything. Now, where I put the black super glue in, I had to have yet another application. So really, what have we learnt here about ejector pin marks and filling them and everything? If they're small, like these are, and fairly shallow, you can use pretty much anything. You can see in there one application of Mr. Surfacer is pretty much done. I went over with super glue because I thought they were sunken down in. You can see there's just one little bit of super glue there. So another quick application of Mr. Surfacer would have been okay. That's the Mr. Surfacer 1000. And as I say, all this stuff you can get from Brooks Models, and in the link in the description below the video, there'll be some discount codes you can use there. When you have larger ejection pin marks like these, okay, or deep ones like we had in here, I've glued these two halves together now, then it's really best to either do the plastic card one, okay. If you don't have a cutter and you don't have plastic card, then go for the talcum powder. This one here was the clear super glue. This was Flexi 5K CA for PE, and you just saw me, I mixed in some talcum powder into the glue, and it made like a paste, and I only had to use one application and it sanded quite easily, so absolutely fine. This one here, plastic card, pressed down into the super glue, and then sand it again, absolutely fine. The beauty is with the plastic card, it won't move, it won't shrink back. This may well shrink back. All of it may well, all of it probably will shrink back, but the plastic card, 99% sure it won't. But on an application like this, where it's underneath, you're just getting rid of obvious circles, then it's absolutely fine. If it does sink back and leaves a bit of a shallow there, it doesn't really matter. It's when you've got ejector pin marks, like if you have them on the outside here, you want to make sure you've got rid of them and they don't shrink back. So in that case, I would use the white glue, or just use super glue, but then put the model to one side for a month before you sand it or anything. And that way you know that it's gone proper hard and it's not going to shrink back anymore. I've had situations where I've done ejector pin marks, sanded them beautifully smooth, and by the time it's come to finishing the model and priming, I can see them. So bear that in mind. It will shrink back. Mr. Surfacer will always shrink back. Super glues generally do. So really what we've come up with here is probably the best option, the easiest option, is your super glue mixed with talcum powder. Now you can just use ordinary cheap super glue, but as I mentioned before, it will probably dry absolutely rock hard and it'll be really difficult to sand. So bear that in mind as well. I also use these two here. Now these are two newly opened bottles, and something I've discovered with using these two. These are the Flexi 5K CA Black and Black Thin. What I've discovered is they take forever to dry, and even when they're dry, they still stay quite rubbery. They're almost like trying to sand down a very hard rubber material. So bear that in mind. Again, but the beauty of them is you can see them. You can see where they are. You can see when you're sanding, when you've got a perfect circle. This one here, the clear with the talcum powder in it, not so well. So that's basically how to get rid of them, how to hide them, and we also talked about why they are there. One of the biggest problems when it comes to ejector pin marks is when they've got them in areas like this. Now on here you see this panel here, that's a flat panel that's going to go down. It doesn't matter because that is hidden. Same here on the internal structure. But on the bottom here, these are like pontoons on the sides of the hull. You can see here we've got a load of shrink marks, which is another issue. Okay, so they'll have to be filled, sanded. But on here you can see we've got a load of it. We'll look at this one because it's smaller. We've got a load of ejector pin marks in there, and they're in very, very difficult places to get to sand. So what I would probably do there is take the part off the sprue, put a wall of masking tape around the side, and just flood each pocket with a drop of Mr. Surfacer and let it level out and sort of try and hide it that way. Or just completely leave them. But the trouble is if you start to weather your model and put washers on and stuff, it's just going to make them stand out even more. So bear that in mind. Of course, the other thing you can do if you've got the patience is to measure the size of the rectangles, cut a load of pieces of plastic card and glue them in, and that will cover them up as well. But again, that's a lot of work. But you'll probably find that those rectangles are pretty consistent, and then you'll have to trim them when you come to these little angle pieces here. But it could be a bit of fun, couldn't it, doing that? So the beauty of all this is all for sight. It's all for making it look better. Now, if you're not worried about them, they don't bother you, whatever, you might just leave them behind. That's absolutely fine. It's your model, it's up to you. But there are times when you really do have to pay attention. Now, this is the brand new Airfix Jaguar. Beautiful kit that it is. You can see the moulding on here. It is absolutely glorious. It is beautiful. But something you have to be careful of. When you turn this over, now you can see where Airfix have done the work. They've been very careful, other manufacturers aren't. You need to be very, very careful. When you've got ejector pin marks like this on the inside of surfaces, you need to make sure that they're sanded down. Now that one there has got a bit of a raised edge on it. That one there's just a bit of a raised edge here. I doubt you can see it, but that may well affect the fit. So when you have got stuff like that, make sure you come along and just sand them out. You can see where that raised edge is going. Just sand them out, make sure there's, because they often have edges around, you can see there's an edge on that one as well. If I sand this one, you will see it's sanding away on that upper edge. So just go over them all, make sure they're all down flat. Same here, that you've got them in here. just make sure the same there where those panels are going to go into there, you've got ejector pin marks. And quite often, with this is brand new tooling, as the tool wears, you will start to see raised lumps. You will see here, this one has got a raised lump next to it where they've repaired the tool or sanded the tool. They've taken a little chunk out. So just make sure you sand them and get rid of them, because they will affect the fit. Same in here, look, there's going to be something going in there. It's not on this sprue, but you can see there's an ejector pin mark in there. It is undercut, but it may have an edge around it, so bear that in mind. So that's another type of ejector pin mark issue to look out for. Whoops. Another one to look out for, and with Airfix they actually tell you to remove them. You can see here you have these great big raised D-shaped pins, and they are called Z-pins, and they are part of the ejector pin, and they're often there. So basically, as the sprue is ejected, the ejector pin marks, the ejector pins will stay out, and the sprue will hang on the ejector pins, and then the operator or whatever can just take it off the pins, press a button, and it starts to cycle again. The first thing is the pins go back. So you can see them on there. There's some here as well. You can see them there. And what you can do with those is literally you can just cut them off. Okay, so get your cutters and cut them off like so. Okay, that's that gone. Check there's going to be no interference with any other part, and then you're good to go. All right, so yeah, always worth cutting them off. Sometimes as well you'll have these, particularly on like RFM kits and stuff, Rayfield model I mean, you'll have these and they'll be on a part which is going down, so you'll have to cut them off and then sand them nice and flat. But I don't think we need to worry about this, because this is the side of the nose gear bay and it's just going to be in free air. But if you leave them on there, they probably will interfere with the fuselage. So so there we go. Another thing worth looking out for, you can see here, this is the main gear bay. This is actually a perfect one to show you. You can see here there are ejector pin marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the upper wall of the nose of the gear bay is going to go in there, and they are proud. They are sticking up. They are going to affect your fit, so you need to sand those before you fit your wheelbase together, because they are going to they're going to have a gap in there because they are sticking up. So you can see that they're sticking up. If I rub a knife over here, you can see that that's actually raised. So if you have got the Jaguar, make sure you deal with those. Where are the other ends? Yeah, you see on this end they've got the ejector pin marks on the back. So yeah, it looks like they're an intermediate bulkhead or something halfway along. It's a beautiful model, isn't it? Anyway, there we go. So that has been a sort of re-look at ejector pin marks. So in some, the other thing I wanted to show you was sanding them, wasn't it? So when you're in tight spots like this, like here, we've got a rim all around the edge that we don't want to sand, and we've got these little buttresses here, and we don't want to sand those. So the chances are, if I go in a stick with a stick like this, I'm going to rub this edge away. So what I do is I cut a little piece of stick off, stick it on a pointy tool, and then you can just come in here and just sand that around over your ejector pin marks and get rid of them, just like so. And you can cut off, I mean, I could take a piece here, I could make a piece this big. Okay, just stick my tool into it, just like that. Push it down in, and that's great for like getting in those little tight spots and everything. Absolutely awesome. You can see for in here on this this platform, get in there with that, just sand away. Although you don't need to, because there's no edge on the back, you can just use your sanding stick. As I say, these sticks are from Icky Sticky in Australia. They were sent to me by Annie. I don't believe they're available in this country as of yet, but I think they will be soon. You can get similar things from UMP. There's also some AK or MIG ammo ones, but be careful of those because they have a very strange range on them. They have like I think it's 120, 180, and then they go straight to 1200. There's nothing in between. They're really coarse or really fine. So bear that in mind. Anyway, so there we go. So basically, yeah, for large ejector pin marks like these, plastic card or super glue with talcum powder in it, and go from there. You can also use acrylic powder, dental acrylic powder and all that, but I like to show you using commonly available off-the-shelf stuff rather than some special stuff that I've got from Rolls-Royce or something. So yeah, talcum powder and super glue does a lovely job. Okay, thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you all soon. Bye for now. Just another little thought, guys. This is something I've literally just thought of while I'm looking at this sprue. Something it would be worth doing. When you get these things here, it's a bit easier to show on here. You can see these little extensions here. These are designed to be cut off. They are there. They are ejector pin marks, if you like. But rather than put the ejector pin mark in the part, what they've done is made a tab on the side. So that helps remove it from the tool. So obviously when you come to build the kit, you will cut these off like so, okay, and throw them away. But grab the tweezers so I can hold it. But just looking at it, these things would be absolutely perfect. Like I showed you with cutting the sprue, if you wanted to fill the ejector pin mark, that'd be absolutely perfect to drop in there and then trim it off and sand it afterwards. So what I'm going to start doing now is keeping these in a little Tamiya paint jar. I'm going to start keeping these because they're going to make perfect little plastic things for holding your for filling your ejector pin marks. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to start doing. A lot of kits, like I say, Riffield model earlier, they have a lot of them. They're all over the sprue, so you'll have loads of them, and they're all come in different sizes. These are 2.5mm, but there'll be all sorts of different size ones. So yeah, keep hold of them, super glue them in, sand them down, job done. Right, just a little another little tip that literally just came into my head while I was looking at it. See you soon.